Hello and welcome. We've seen about 2,59,000 cases, and that number is most likely going to rise. And if not rise, it's going to stabilize at a level that's clearly much, much higher than what we've seen in 2020. Now, the more important question is the reaction that people are displaying to the rising number of cases. Now, the reaction is caused by obviously the panic and the fear, which is genuine, as more and more people are getting admitted to hospitals, either for lack of oxygen or because their condition, thanks to COVID-19, is deteriorating faster than they thought. Now, this coupled with all the visuals we see, the material that we read, unfortunately, on WhatsApp groups, perhaps creates a situation which is quite clearly undesirable and based on not sufficient understanding of what's going on, at least from a medical point of view. So the three questions that we want to pose is really as follows. One is, what really is the progression of COVID-19 in phase 2? And it is different in some ways from phase 1, but what is it that we are seeing today, particularly as it becomes more serious? Secondly, what is the medical response and what defines it? So that you can understand why you should be doing something or not. And that really is the third point. What should you be doing if you suspect that you are likely a COVID-19 patient, whether or not you test positive, and what should you not be doing, more importantly, and of course, listening to medical advice is the most important thing there. So to discuss this, I'm joined by two experts, both in critical care. First, Dr. Richa Sareen, a consultant pulmonology and critical care medicine at Fortis Hospital in New Delhi, and Dr. Tushar Parmar, critical care head at Apollo Hospitals in New Mumbai. So the question is, what are you seeing today in your hospital that is different? When I say what, I mean what are the kind of cases that you're seeing today, and how is that different from 2020?
Yes, so definitely there are a few differences that we are seeing in this current wave. One definitely is that the infectiousness is very, very high. If one person of the family is turning positive, almost the entire family is turning positive. Last time around, it was not that much. Second is that the majority of patients that we are getting right now are between the age groups of 30 to 50 years, and they are sick enough to get admitted. Their oxygen levels are going down. They are getting pneumonias on CT scans. So that is something which is different from last time, because last time the younger population was not having a serious illness. In fact, there was a comparison also in today's Times of India, wherein they have compared the percentage of people in the first wave and the second wave and their symptoms. The percentage of young people testing positive is almost the same, but the severity which was there last time is much more now. Much more people are hypoxic, and much more people require oxygen, and much more people have CT findings. That is one more change that we are seeing. The third thing that we are seeing, specifically our pediatricians are seeing, is that this time around the children, the younger children, they are also becoming symptomatic. Like last time we saw that even if the parents have turned positive, then obviously everybody in the family got tested and children would be positive, but they would be absolutely asymptomatic. They would have no symptoms. But this time around, children are getting symptoms. They are having high grade fever. They are having problems. They are having cough, cold,
Right.
loose motion. So that is also one thing that we are seeing, which is different from last year.
Right. Okay. Dr. Parmar, how are you comparing these two periods, peak August, September 2020 versus what we are seeing today?
So typically, if you see what we are seeing in nowadays, that in 2020 and 2021, the basic difference was is age group also. The more younger population coming into a serious illnesses, and they are coming to the ICU in quite a bit in number. There are twofold discussion about it. One, with the increased amount of a number, which is almost doubled every day, this kind of a feature we have seen in the past, probably yes. Second fold, that the infectivity rises, so the entire family is involved. So when entire family is involved, there are people bound to come to the intensive care or hospitalization, requiring oxygenation and everything else. But definitely, this wave is taking quite a bit of toll on every aspect of life. The reason being why? Because most of the intensive care beds are occupied at this point of time. And once I say occupied, that means their average length in ICU range from 7 days to almost 15 days, 20 days, 25 days, and at times month also. So when you say this amount of length of illness, that means your bed is going to be occupied for a longer period of time. So inflow is too much, outgoing is little lesser in number. So why we are seeing this amount of a huge surge and why we are stuck to a single situation? Because patient doesn't get better very soon, even if they get each and every bit of treatment which has been documented. And they don't go out of ICUs very fast. That's why we cannot accommodate each and every patient in the same environment, same hospital, or
Right.
same kind of setup. So that's the primary problem which I feel so is in taking a lot of things out of our hand. This is one part.
Right.
Second part, when we see that which kind of a new symptoms are coming into a picture or what kind of a presentation we have. So I would definitely segregate this thing into a couple of things that whether you are presented with an only viral fever or you have some amount of an organ involvement. When I say organ involvement, there would be a couple of different, whether my heart is also involved, whether my brain is also involved, whether my lung is also involved. So in all these three organs or multiple organs, there are different presentation of COVID which are present, which were present last time, but this time each and every patient coming to an hospital with a heart attack also found to have COVID positive. They come with a brain stroke in a younger age, found to have COVID positive. They come with a huge clot in the lung, they are COVID positive. So different organ involvement is also much worrisome in younger population this time.
Right. Okay. So, Dr. Sarin, you also mentioned younger population, and you said that the kind of symptoms that you're seeing with younger people, and I think it's important that you use the data point, because the number of younger people getting infected may be the same or roughly similar to 2020, but clearly the impact that this infection has had on them is much higher. So can you walk us through what is happening more specifically, particularly with cases that you've seen, whether and with younger people?
So this time, more and more people are coming up with pneumonia. People are going into lung failure. I mean, respiratory failure, requiring oxygen in the first week only. Earlier, what we used to see was that deterioration was happening in the second week of illness. Now, people are presenting with high-grade fevers on 1 or 2 days, and on third or fourth day, their oxygen levels are going down, and that mediates hospitalization. If they do not get hospitalized in a day or two, then a situation reaches where they require an ICU. And as rightly said with the other speaker also, this time the patients are not really responding to the treatments that we've been giving through the year. And the ICU exit rate is low. People are staying in the ICU for longer durations of time. People are staying in general in the hospitals for longer duration of time. Fever is not getting controlled very early. Like what we saw last year was that for moderate patients who had an oxygen requirement of a liter or so, the moment you start remdesivir, the moment you start IV steroids, so within a couple of days or 3 days, you'll see some response. These times, it is taking longer for the fever to go away. So that is why the hospitals are full, and the infection has spread at such an unprecedented rate that the numbers are coming in every day. It is like it's almost 3 times what we had at the peak in 2020. The beds are still the same. In fact, the occupancy of the bed is longer with every patient. So that is what is making the situation very bad this time.
Tell us how you are seeing. I mean, my earlier part was about the. I mean, what is really happening. So the question that I wanted to focus on was on response. How are you responding to patients who are coming to you? What is the kind of treatment that you're giving them, and how is that affecting perhaps maybe the perception of the medicines that people require, and also the panic that we are seeing outside?
So, if you go through the guidelines, how to manage in COVID, by now we have a number of articles which are published in various journals in various ways. But the crux of treatment remains very clear that you treat the viral load, you treat the inflammation, and you treat the thrombotic complication while you have a blood clots. This is the basic crux of the treatment, which everybody knows that these are the beneficial point. Rest of the medication, they are still called as an experimental therapy, and we take it as an experimental therapy. So even in that, when you present within 7 to 9 days of your illness, there are chances that antiviral may help within that day. If you are crossing more than 7 to 9 days of your primary symptom, your antiviral might not help you at all. Second, when you say the inflammatory phase, where you give some amount of steroid, and steroid are going to help in your inflammatory process. In transit, probably we have couple of complications of steroid, like they raise the blood sugar, they have propensity to increase the infection also. When we come to the third part, which is universally known, that we need to give some blood thinner in a dosage where it can accommodate most of the patients. So this three basic treatment we are giving to almost all patients,
Right.
from probably I would say last June or July, because remdesivir was available from that point of time in India. Before that, it was still a scarcity. Most of the hospitals were not getting a remdesivir, and still the result were almost kind of a similar when you consider a pre-remdesivir era and right now also. So these are the few therapies which are definitely going to help you if you come in time and you are getting treated within certain point of time. It may impact your hospital stay. So when I say hospital stay, the data which suggests that remdesivir definitely shorten the hospital stay in a mild to moderate cases, but it cannot still prevent the death. That means if I am going to have bad lung and I'm going to on ventilator, remdesivir might not be able to prevent the death. Yes, using a steroid, they have associated with certain amount of mortality benefit. So our strategy is very clear: stick to the basics, what we have been doing so far, and it has been published and well known. Stick to the basic, and rest of the therapy,
Right.
depending on the situation, you still go on the using as why I say as an experimental therapy. Like we usually talk about tocilizumab, we usually talk about baricitinib, we usually talk about thymosin alpha. So these are still therapies which are going to have impact or not clear. A lot of literature say that it increases infection. A lot of literature say that it is beneficial to the patient, but still not a huge trial. So we give them basic therapy. If situation remaining within certain frame, not improving, then we ask the family. These are the panel which can give you an experimental therapy, whether they can they want to go ahead with that or not, and according to that we choose our next plan of action.
Right. So, Dr. Sareen, are you in concurrence with that? I mean, focus on viral load, focus on inflammation, and then finally blood clots and so on. I mean, are these the three basic categories of concern?
Yes, so absolutely the major problem in COVID that we're facing is the inflammatory phase. So that it is the inflammation that causes the virus that triggers the inflammatory response in the body, which is causing all the problems. And it is different for different persons. Some people will go into an inflammatory phase faster, some will go later, some might not go in at all. And it is the inflammation that we have to target, which we do through anti-inflammatory therapies. And the steroid is the only thing that has been proven to be of value for as far as modality is concerned. And every day, some of the other newer anti-inflammatory medicine is coming up. Tocilizumab we've used a lot in the last time, and in certain patients it did show a miraculous effect. Although all the studies and all the data that has come up, because it's a pandemic, it'll always be in small number of people. And when a patient is sick, you give them the benefit of everything. So it has to be really a randomized thing where you give one thing against another thing to know what is
Right.
working, what is not working. But to say it in a nutshell, to say it in a crux, definitely anti-inflammatory medicines are the mainstay for somebody who's got a severe COVID illness, because that is inflammation is the thing that is causing problems, and then it goes
Right.
on to cause clots and all at a later stage.
Right. So now let me address the issue of remdesivir. So what does remdesivir do? How important is it from your experience? And should we be panicking and going and buying remdesivir the way we are buying currently, whether it's being prescribed or not?
So I would say that probably still the guidelines and everything says if you are within 7 to 9 days of your bracket of illness, you can utilize the remdesivir, and that may give you again benefit not of a mortality. It will give you a benefit of shorter stay in mild to moderate cases, not in the severe cases. So remdesivir still going and purchasing in an abundant amount would not be so helpful if you have already crossed the certain amount of days of your illness, because most of the people are staying 6 to 7 days at home. They start trying usual medication. They are taking in favipiravir. When they reach to hospital, probably it's an almost they are crossing 7 to 8 days of their illness, and on that day, whether it is going to benefit you or not, it is very much questionable, because it is very clearly mentioned that viral replication stops after 7 to 9 days of illness. So even though if you are using a remdesivir or not using the remdesivir at that point of time, might not help you.
Okay, Dr. Sareen?
So basically, what people need to understand, rather than just loading remdesivir and just stocking it and all those things, is that they have to report early. For the first few days, people are just sitting with their eyes shut, and then they're saying it is seasonal change, it is not COVID. Let me see for another few days. So 4 5 days, so they just go like this only, and they don't get tested. Then they get tested, then they'll take some medications at home, they'll call somebody, they'll follow some alternate medicines, and they are reaching us once the oxygen starts to dip. This is happening with many patients. So this now in the last few days it's gone down because probably the beds are saturated and people are not reaching only in those many amounts. But this is what we've seen through in 2020 also, in 2021 also, that there is a lot of denial associated with COVID-19. First week just goes on in denial of symptoms, then they don't get tested. Then once they get tested, they do some self-medication. They try and avoid the known medication. They try and avoid contacting healthcare only in any way. They'll take some Ayurvedic medication. There's some certain brands of Ayurveda which is claiming that their medications are healing. Then what happens is the patient starts going into the inflammatory phase. Oxygen starts to dip. Specifically, people who have comorbidities, people who are obese, obesity, and hypertension are two of the independent risk factors for severe disease. And then they come to us in a stage where already their oxygens are 70%, 80%. They require ICU admission. And clearly, once the viral replication phase is over, obviously, when they come to us, we do offer them remdesivir, but what role it has at that stage is yet to be seen. Any antiviral therapy that you have to initiate in the first 5 to 7 days. It is then you can control the viral replication, because once the virus starts to replicate, virus replicates exponentially. So the amount of viral load is going to have a impact on the amount of inflammation that is going to happen later on.
Right.
So the idea here is for people to identify that right now in the current situation, anything and everything can be COVID. Not to keep your eyes shut and contact healthcare system at the earliest, rather than waiting for too long.
Right. Okay. So let me come to the last part, which is to say that what should you be doing or not be doing, and let's also acknowledge that this is a time when if you try to get a test, it's not going to be easy. In the big cities, it's already delayed. Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore, so on. But in smaller towns, as I am talk to people, people are not even being tested, because the local laboratories are saying that we have to send the samples to either a Delhi or a Mumbai, and those labs are loaded, so we don't know. So anyway, so the point is that even if you go in for a test, the result may be delayed, or you may be not allowed to, or you may not be able to do a test. So that's one point to be noted. Second, of course, people are panicking. And panic is obviously, logically, I guess, the only way people will react when faced with a situation like this, when they see everything that's happening. So in this environment, what should they be doing and not doing? Dr. Parmar, you first.
So typically, it is very essential to know what are the symptoms of COVID you can have. As we all know that loss of sense of smell, taste, These are the primary where everybody starts looking into the situation that probably I have in COVID. Fever, body ache, these are the symptoms which you need to worry about in the beginning and start having a certain amount of consultation with one of the physician or doctor, whomsoever you are going into it. There are few different kind of symptoms what you are knowing about is persistent headache. You are one of your elderly being in a confusional state. These are also nowadays a new symptoms which are coming in with the COVID. There is one atypical sign is a left-sided redness of eye, conjunctivitis. This is also one of the new signs which is growing. So first, you know that any abnormal thing which is happening with you, which may be a certain amount of a viral illness, you primarily seek the medical help. When you seek a medical help, probably what is the best line of care what you can do at home. If you don't have any amount of a major fever, or you are not coughing much, or your breathing is not a problem, or your oxygenation is not a problem, you keep on monitoring your temperature, you keep on monitoring your oxygen saturation, so you will understand that what things are going with you. If you keep on having fever spike, if you keep on having some low saturation, probably seeking a medical help at the earliest will be necessary. In this situation, when we don't have the immediate bed available, what is this? What you should be doing at that point of time? If you are having a continuous fever, again seek a medical help, and whatsoever is the guidance within paracetamol or whatsoever, you can continue with that. Second, if you have some amount of coughing and your saturation remaining on the lower side, we would suggest you to start having a proning at home only. What do you mean by proning? That means that you should start keep on changing your position of your body and lying into a different situation, different position, so your oxygen saturation keep on maintaining, keep on checking oxygen saturation, so you start treating yourself by expanding lung in a better way. So these are the few things which you should start doing before anything starts at your home, before you
Right.
go to any institute or you get in bed. So these are the things which you, if we keep on doing, probably you are in a better shape when you reach home, reach any hospital or anything else.
Right.
And
Okay.
definitely seeking and medical help is utmost. And
First and
nowadays,
foremost.
online consultation or an clinic is a better way to do it. So most of the clinician would guide you in a better way that what should be done for COVID at this point of time.
Okay, Dr. Sareen, last word. What should patients, given the background that I referred to, which is obviously challenging times, be doing or not doing, particularly if they're already suspecting that they have COVID?
Yeah, so I absolutely agree with the other speakers. The first thing that you should be doing is that keep initially one thing is that in the current situation, do not go out until unless it is very urgent. And if you're going out, please wear a mask and practice social distancing. Lockdown in Delhi and other cities will go away after a few days, but COVID appropriate behavior is something which has to go a long way in overcoming the pandemic. Secondly, if you get any symptoms, not everybody is getting fever on first day. I have seen many patients who only had loose motions, only having vomiting. These are the symptoms that people don't even suspect COVID, and just a little bit of malaise. I recently only spoke to a patient sometime back who was not checking temperature for her child. He thought that no, हाथ लगाने पे तो normally लग रहा है, but once they checked, it was more than 100. So if they're doing this for this child, then obviously they'll do it with themselves as well. So even if you have any infectious symptoms, like nowadays some like loss of taste, loss of smell, is they are one most typical symptoms, but they're not coming in everybody. So don't think that because you can smell, because you can taste, so आपको COVID नहीं है या आपको fever नहीं आ रहा है, so you do not have COVID. Even any infectious symptoms are coming in, even a little bit of sore throat, some cough, specifically if more than one family member is having that, then you have to suspect COVID. The first thing that you can do is that please isolate yourself at home so that you can protect your other family members. That is one thing which I think is very lacking in our society, which we face day in and day out. What happens is one person tests COVID, after 3 or 4 days, the entire family tests COVID. test positive. So that is something which can be curtailed if you isolate yourself on day one. Get in touch with your physician. Teleconsult is happening rampantly. Everybody is doing teleconsult. But it will not only make you less anxious. You will be able to speak to a doctor one on one. You will be able to tell your symptoms. The other person will be able to tell you what to do, what not to do. And in the meantime, till the time you get your reports, it is taking 48 to 72 hours, which is absolutely true, and that cannot be helped because the burden on labs is also too much. So till the time you get a negative report, please remain isolated and follow the advice of your physician. If you get fever, just keep on monitoring your oxygen levels, keep on monitoring your temperature. Even in the interim period, till the time you get a report, you are still in the category of a COVID suspect. So in that time also, your oxygen levels can drop, your fever can go very high, and you might need to go and get admitted. And keep on taking a good diet, keep on having lots of fluids. If your oxygens are coming between 90 and 94, awake proning is something which we tell everybody, specifically people who generally have a lower oxygen levels, people who are obese, people who are smokers, people who have a weakened lungs. So we tell them awake proning does not require anything. You just have to lie on your tummy and it actually helps a lot. So, and please do not be anxious and be calm and face the situation rather than being panicky at a later stage.
Right. Dr. Parmar and Dr. Sareen, thank you very much for joining me. Hope to speak to you again, and I do wish you and your teams all the very best in fighting this disease. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.